Good evening from the RÆBURN Lab in Hackney. This is Christopher Raeburn. So just waiting for a few people to join us on tonight's RÆBURN Connect. So this is a real honour, a real pleasure tonight because it's all about collaboration, and I'm going to be joined by a very, very special guest. And for those of you that haven't seen our latest and for me most special partnership with Aēsop, that's what today is all about. And we're going to be learning a lot from a very, very inspiring individual. And just while we're waiting for a few more people to join, and it's amazing how many have joined already, I will just give you guys a little tour because we're here in the RÆBURN Lab. And for those of you that have not seen the space in person, everything we do here is all about responsible design. So lots about remaking, reducing our impact and recycling. So the new collection here, which is called Rejuvenate, is behind me. And for anyone that joined our RÆBURN Connect with Alec Leach last week, you'll have learnt a little bit about that. And we're really looking forward, of course, to reopening the space in just over a month now as well. And so as I come through into the main studio space as well, and we're starting now to rack up lots of people, so thank you so much. We have our archive here behind me, and then we have the studio space just through here as well. So this is normally where we're busy making and doing an awful lot. So without further ado, and now that we've got amazing guests joining by the plenty, I'm going to put the phone down, and I am going to be joined by Adam, who is just sat right here, and hopefully we're going to be able to see one another quite well and be socially distanced. Good evening. Normally I'd shake your hand, and so we'll do that good old-fashioned elbow punch. So Adam, just firstly, thank you so much for being here. So tonight's all about kind of collaboration, partnership, and we're of course really proud that we've got our new collaboration with Aēsop. And first of all, I just really want to, again, thank you for being here and learn a little bit about yourself, what you do within Aēsop, but then also really importantly, how your journey began.
Yeah, so thank you, Chris. I mean, I think the first thing to say is what a beautiful space.
Oh.
It's fantastic. The first time we met was in your old space, and this is it's a really incredible space.
Different.
Yeah, it's a little bit different, and a very beautiful collection as well. So congrats on that. So a little bit about myself.
Exactly.
So I'm a marketeer, but a little bit of an accidental marketeer.
Yeah.
So I studied at university in Nottingham, at Nottingham Trent, quite a few years ago now.
Yeah.
I won't give away exactly when, but quite a few years ago. And I studied environmental conservation management and computer science.
Yeah, which is quite an amazing mix, right?
It is. But back then I thought that it would probably be something that is going to be useful, and I thought it could be quite interesting
Mystic
as
Adam.
well.
Very
yes,
good.
yeah, indeed. And from there I managed to end up in the marketing world.
Fantastic, just step by step. So for anyone that saw the message on Instagram, with Adam's background and now kind of journey into marketing in general, the whole point of today is that actually, hopefully, we're going to be talking a little bit. There's a general kind of steer on what we're planning talking about, but overall, it's also about you. So we really welcome any questions as we go through. I forgot to make an introduction earlier to Dave. A few of you will have met Dave last time, but he'll be happy to write down questions and sort of feed them to myself and Adam as well. So I need to come in a little bit. Dave's letting me know. Are we all good, Dave?
All good.
Fantastic. So importantly, I think to tee things up, let's learn about you in the past year and the reality of what we've been through, but from a personal perspective, Adam.
Yeah, it's been an incredibly tough year for me personally, but I think for everyone really. But for us as Aēsop and myself, it really started back at the end of 2019 with the bushfires. So we're an Australian brand, born out of Melbourne, and I was actually down there in Australia when the bushfires were on, and it was tough to see and tough to witness it, close to hand. In terms of the impact, in terms of flora, fauna, humanity, it was really, really tough. So it started with that, and then obviously COVID hit, and the world became smaller, and we went from jumping on planes to connect with people to connect with people on pixels, and that in itself was really, really tough. And then we had Black Lives Matters as well, which had a profound impact on myself and many other people. So yeah, it's been a tough and trying year.
So, you mentioned a little bit about your university and then kind of jumping into the sort of marketing side of things, but I guess that word humanity as well, I think it's an amazing one that kind of tees things up. Even when we've spoken a little bit previously, we've only met twice in person before, right? Just for the audience to know. But I always sense this amazing kind of soul to everything that you were sort of talking about, and real sincerity, and again that kind of humanity thing in general. So it must have been you're definitely a real people person. I think just in general, so that must have been super tricky as well. That you mentioned before, it was all about getting on planes and doing all of that. But taking a step right back, we spoke previously. You went to university, and then talk me through what happened after that, please. So I think it's super cool for people to hear.
Yeah, so I was up at university in Nottingham, and to be honest with you, at the time I wasn't really that keen to go to university, and my parents, gently encouraged me. To go on.
How gently?
Well, not so gently, to be honest with you, to participate in university. And so I went, and after about 6 months being there, I was a little bit disappointed with the nightlife, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So I thought to myself, either I can be disappointed about it or I can do something about it.
Amazing.
Cut a long story short, I started running a weekly club night.
Yeah. So this is what the people want to hear. Trust me, Adam.
Right.
This is how to get into marketing. This is what it's all about.
Yeah.
If you don't like something, make something better, right?
Yeah, exactly. And through that whole process, I learned a lot because I knew nothing about it. And I was pretty naive, to be honest with you. I knew nothing about print production process. So you talk about being a people person. It was about going and having conversations with people. I remember sitting down with my designer at the time, a guy called Paul Andrew Design, and he taught me through how you design flyers. It's an old school print production process. So it was about films. You had to take them to the printer, understanding the print production process. But it was a good learning in terms of that introduction to marketing and communication and connecting with customers. I didn't frame it like that, but ultimately that's what it was. And it was about creating an atmosphere in the club and creating an environment and creating a memorable experience that people wanted to experience time and time again. So week on week,
coming back.
Keep them coming back, keep them hungry for more. And at the time, I was learning literally as I was going along. I was fortunate, I was lucky, and the nights were successful. I was then asked to run a couple of other nights at some other clubs. They won some awards, and so I started to get connected with the booze industry, if I can put it like that, right? Because you win awards, the awards are sponsored by the booze industry, so you start to know people within the industry. I graduated from university, and like most graduates, you're still trying to find out what you're trying to do, what you want to do, and where you're going to go. And people were saying to me, "You should go and get a job in a blue chip company." I didn't know what the hell a blue chip company was. So I said, "But those guys at Anheuser-Busch, don't you? Because through the club." So I went, "Yeah, I do." And so I approached them, and cut a long story short, I ended up at Anheuser-Busch, which is now Anheuser-Busch InBev. And I started off in sales there. And talking about people person, my first manager was a great people person and taught me a lot.
Fantastic. And then a jump into fashion.
Yeah, so so it's I was in the FM, so the fast moving consumer goods space for a little while, and then I transitioned into the fashion apparel space. Loewe, LVMH, living in Spain for a bit. Timberland.
Fantastic.
So and then where I am now, which is Aēsop and in the beauty space.
Super cool. So let's talk about Aēsop. And I suppose that the reality again of the last year we spoke about earlier, but for Aēsop, how's that impacted? Because all of a sudden, I hope we've all learned hands, face, space, and everything else, and we've all woken up more than ever to kind of hand care and hygiene and all of those things. But for you as a brand, what's the sort of impact been, I guess?
Yeah, so it's interesting you talk about the hands, space, face.
I got it right. Boris didn't, you remember, first time round, so
indeed,
I'm glad that...
Indeed. I think the one consistent bit of advice that all governments were giving across the globe, driven by the World Health Organization, was wash your hands and wash your hands regularly. And as we know, if you wash your hands regularly, then you need to also hydrate them. So that was for us, having products in that space. Yes, it was good news for us in that sense, right? Not for humanity in its broader sense, obviously not, but in terms of we have the right product offering. There's a little bit how this conversation started, because we knew that was going to be, or we thought and believed that was going to be a change in behaviour.
Yeah.
And that could we collaborate together to create something that could
could be useful, right?
Exactly.
I'm always aware that new people are joining all the time, and I just want to reintroduce Adam, amazing Chief Marketing Officer, correct?
Indeed,
I've
yes.
not got that
Indeed,
wrong,
yes.
at Aēsop. And you mentioned just how the project came together. So I'm just going to show a little bit. The maps that you see on the table here are original. They're 1960s aeronautical maps. And the way that we've actually been able to then bring the project together is essentially we have made with Aēsop what we call the Adventurer's Roll-Up. So this is actually constructed from the original maps, so 60 odd years old, and inside you've got all of the items that you will need for your everyday kind of use, basically. So beautiful hand care, sprays. So again, this is exactly what we're talking about, right? All about kind of personal hygiene and hand care going forward. And the cool thing about the way we've designed the roll-up is you've got additional space that comes here and here, so you can fit other items in as well.
And this one I have to actually
Here we go.
show. So we developed this one recently. It's our rinse-free, so our alcohol-based product.
Yep.
And we were thinking about how we could move it on. So we developed a spray version, which gives just the right amount of dispensation.
You've done that
onto
before.
onto the hands, or onto, in your case, handlebars as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. So super cool. And the really nice thing, like the maps that you can see here again, just on the table, we chose them really for their significance. So geographically, we chose the Aral Sea, which unfortunately is an area, of course, with incredible degradation, soil degradation, etc., and essentially a disappearing sea that's happened mainly through cotton farming, and then also Borneo. And this again is an area that, of course, has seen a lot of deforestation. So we chose the maps specifically for that. And then the remade items, again, that hopefully I'm showing here quite well, everything's been made right here at the RÆBURN Lab. But we then also have a really beautiful recycled cotton version as well. So same concept, that it's just super simple and it unwraps and you've got your products inside. And the way that we've designed it is just so that then once you've used your Aēsop product, no problem, you can fit another one in. So it's all about longevity. It's about then trying to think the future use, basically, of the roll-up in general. So that's what this is kind of all about, I guess, a little bit in terms of this evening and the conversation. But really importantly, I hope it's two brands that have come together in quite an unexpected way. And the way that we sort of think within RÆBURN, of course it's about responsible design, but it's quite radical what we try and do, remake things, use up all of this waste, all of that sort of stuff. But importantly, we're not in your industry at all. So when we first started talking, it was quite, okay, well, what are we going to do and how's this going to make sense for both brands? But you're right to say, I mean, the anchor in all of this was just thinking, well, what's the future going to be and how can we make something that's useful together, right?
And I think that the commonality in terms of utilitarian, so, our product, we pride ourselves in it being, very much utilitarian product. We pride ourselves in terms of the efficacy. And yes, of course, we're proud of the fact that we're very much, a creative and design-led business and, the way we present ourselves, but ultimately what's in the jar is really important to us, and that is useful.
Yeah.
And so, for me, it felt like there was, a real crossover, really, in terms of that utilitarian piece.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny for me, I feel, you probably get this a bit though, but I kind of feel like I grew up with Aēsop. And you sort of have a bit of pride because when I started to travel a lot and I was going to New York or Tokyo, all of a sudden you saw these beautiful stalls starting to pop up and so well communicated, the graphic language, and you knew straight away even when you saw from afar. And of course, as someone starting my own business just over a decade ago, it was really inspiring. So the moment that this kind of conversation started, it just made perfect sense for me personally. But what's been quite unique is I've still not met nearly all of the Aēsop team. And we've done all of this kind of through 3 lockdowns here in the UK, working with the teams in Australia, and just amazing talent across the board. So, yeah, you should take all the credit. That's what I'm saying, Adam. For all of us.
I'm blessed. I'm blessed to be working with a great.
I'm looking over at Dave because one thing as well, just to sort of remind the group, if there are any questions about Aēsop, about Adam's background, around RÆBURN, anything as we go through, do feel free to ask them. And I think Adam, overall, you're very happy to answer anything, and I always try and just be perfectly honest. I'm sure you would be too. Anything that maybe people can learn on the other side. But I suppose we've talked a little bit around this idea of sort of collaboration and cross-industry. Do you think that's the way it's just going to go more and more? Because certainly we kind of feel that way in RÆBURN. It's amazing, even through the last year, but I think it happened before COVID, to be honest. We were starting to see these much more kind of experimental conversations of, well, hang on, if you pair this with this, then maybe you get something really unexpected and it's kind of better.
Yeah, and it's exactly that. You know, I think the diversity of thought that's brought by bringing, you know, 2 diverse businesses together that share similar values and, you know, are trying to achieve similar things in a unique space together. Yeah. I think that is really powerful. And it can enable us to get to, like you said, things that people have never conceived or thought about before, or just solve issues that people, you know, are wrestling with. So I think it definitely is the future.
Talking of the future, so one of the things that I'm kind of jealously looking at, but also very proud of Aēsop for, is that last year you became B Corp registered, and it's something that we're going through within RÆBURN at the moment. And this isn't easy by any means. And I'd love you first to explain a little bit about what B Corp is for people that have no idea, and then just about how that journey was. It's kind of super cool, hopefully for me to learn, but then of course for the wider group.
Yeah, so no, we're extremely proud to have become B Corp certified last year, and it was a really, really tough journey. So B Corp is a badge of excellence around being environmentally responsible and socially responsible in your business context. So it's really about, you know, thinking about, yes, people, yes, you have to make a profit and run your business, but the planet as well, and bringing those 3 pieces together. But maybe I'll take you back first.
Please
so
do.
We've been around for about 34 years. We were founded by Dennis.
Yeah.
Dennis Pafitis, an Australian brand, as I mentioned to you before, born out of Melbourne. And Dennis back then really always thought about, you know, how he treated his team, how he treated the community he did business within. You know, he obviously thought about the product and the product efficacy, and he always had this thing around treading lightly on the environment. And you saw that back then. If I give you an example of our packaging, it was always as pared back as it could be. So we never created cartons for the sake of cartons back then. We never tested on animals from day one. We thought about the communities that we did business within, and this was prior to, you know, corporate social responsibility being very en vogue. You know, it was way back then because he just thought it was the right thing to do for the business. So moving forward, we've always held on to those values, and I suppose we had a few moments in time where our business sort of pivoted more towards that. And I think the first one was when we became a triple bottom line business. Yeah. So rather than just looking at the profit in terms of our performance, we now look at our profit, yes, but our impact on the planet and our impact on people, both our people and the wider society. And we are held to account. We hold ourselves to account around those 3 areas year on year. So that was a big step for us about 4 years ago when we moved to that. We had a magical moment, I suppose, about a year and a half ago when we became cruelty-free, so Leaping Bunny certified, so the official stamp that we don't test on animals. We achieved that. And then the momentous moment came when we got B Corp certified. But for us, ultimately, it's a journey that we will continue on. So, we have a roadmap out to 2030 where, across People, Profit, Planet, we are still striving to keep improving in each of those spaces. And as you all know with B Corp, once you get the B Corp certification, you have to keep renewing it.
Yeah.
It's not just a trophy that you can put on the shelf and dust it off occasionally. You have to keep ensuring that you keep maintaining the standards.
It really allow you to evolve, but also kind of challenge yourselves. Because I think, again, complete transparency, it's something that we're going through at the moment, as I mentioned with RÆBURN. And a lot of it, to begin with, is almost a self-review process as well. And it's a real eye-opener, because there are so many things that you of course mentioned about people and planet, but then all of the nuances, the supply chain, all of the sort of, I always joke with RÆBURN, it's the kind of octopus. You've got all of these tentacles that you kind of need to tame, right? So then hopefully give the octopus a good hug and you're going to be friends, right? But all of a sudden, as the octopus is getting bigger and the tentacles are getting bigger and bigger, actually getting all of that in line. And then, to your point, once you've then kind of got the certification, it's then, how are you going to improve again? Right?
Yes, indeed.
And then I think the moment that you're B Corp certified, the eyes of the world are looking at you that much more as well. Because certainly, I think seeing the reaction that when you guys signed up, I think then, it's an amazing thing. And then that kind of growing group of companies that are B Corp, then they kind of push each other. And then it's whole kind of groundswell and push and pull that I think is hopefully going to push us all very quickly in the right direction. But I'm glad as well that you mentioned that really this is towards 2030 goals as well.
Yeah. Because, to your point, we have to keep making strides ahead. The business has a role to play in terms of improving society and the environment. And so we have to keep propelling ourselves forward. I laugh and I joke when I was chatting to my son about some products we're launching, and he challenges me. He's 13, and he challenges me on our packaging and how we can do that better. And I'm explaining to him that we've got post-consumer recycled plastic and it's 97%. He's like, but Daddy, can't you do better? Yeah. And that's great, right? Because we have to keep pushing each other. Business needs to keep pushing each other. We have to keep pushing. Our kids need to keep pushing us to keep doing better. Amazing. 13-year-old advocate. Indeed, yes. Activist, I guess, as well. You're obviously doing something right at home. I guess the Sunday dinner must be good fun. But then, I guess kind of what's next then? Because you've done all this amazing work, but then, how do you carry on sort of pushing that? And are you planning to, let's say, work with more experimental kind of radical brands like RÆBURN and looking to learn that? And it kind of links a little bit actually with a question we did have in earlier, which is around, has the pandemic actually changed the way that you're sort of evaluating collaboration opportunities and sort of your priorities as well? That came in from Fulia Albi. So have you sort of seen things? Yeah, so I think, again, if I step back, probably like a lot of businesses, when the pandemic was evolving, and it went in phases, right? It went from, I remember it vividly, actually. You've met Tommy in the team, right? So Tommy and I were supposed to have been traveling to China in January, I think it was, back then. And we were asking ourselves, what is this thing, right? Is it just a flu? Is it going to be more serious? Should we be going? Shouldn't we be going? So it went from that, where businesses were trying to work out what this is, through to coping with it. And then, midway through for us, thinking about what does the future mean for us, across, everything in terms of people, our environmental, so sustainability piece, but also, things to mention, things like the collaboration. And obviously that's where our collaboration conversation came out. Because it was kind of June last year, right? It was. So 3 months into the pandemic, we started talking about this. You sent me a very polite email, LinkedIn message, I think. So, and things kind of kicked off. And we started talking about it. And it was part of the journey of us rethinking about what does the future look like in terms of consumers and consumer behaviour? And we've already seen some shifts, right? So through the pandemic, we've seen some shifts where people were cocooning more, in their homes, partly forced through lockdowns, and some just trying to stay safer, and working more from home. And we saw then that shift in terms of people wanting a richer sensorial experience, in their homes. So whether it's through candles or whether it's personal in terms of your regimen, and there was a shift there, and so that obviously meant that we had to shift as well. Yeah.
Excellent. I think we're doing pretty well. I'll ask again if there are any questions for Dave to be sending over as well, if anyone in the audience. But otherwise, we'll start to kind of wrap things up in the next 5 minutes or so. And I guess just thinking about the next steps, maybe it links with what you've just mentioned anyway, but do you think that I kind of know the perspective from Aēsop, so I'm asking your personal one, but do you think as we shift back into being, post-lockdown and things are eased, and I'm thinking a little bit in the UK, this idea for RÆBURN scares the hell out of me, business as usual, going back to business as normal. And so I guess it kind of links that within Aēsop, your plan is probably not to go back to normal and only to be doing things that are going to be a lot more positive. But just from, a sort of personal perspective, how do you see things tracking? And how does business as normal sound to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the reality is the world's changed forever in terms of the shift, and I think we if you look at our journey through the collaboration, whereby we met in the physical world 10 years ago.
Yeah, scary.
A long time ago, right?
Yeah.
A long time ago, right? And then we hadn't spoken, and we connected through pixels and the virtual world, right? And we've been working pretty much in that world. We're now doing this in the physical space. And digital space, and I think that mix, right, and businesses that can get the balance right, everything in life is about balance, right, and if you can get that balance right between the physical, the digital. You should
give us a wave, Dave. I didn't mean to interrupt, Adam, but I forgot to introduce Dave, so Dave, you should come around and have... So Dave's delivering up any other questions as well, so if anyone wants to see Dave again, feel free to ask another question. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. No. Just the digital and physical. Yeah,
so the balance between the digital and the physical, and businesses, I think, will thrive if they can balance the two. Whether it's when I walked in here, you explained to me that in normal times you have your fans, your customers coming into this space, right?
Yeah, four days a week.
Exactly.
I found this really hard, and actually, for me, the RÆBURN Lab at the moment, I come in and we have a skeleton team at the moment, amazing team members that we have, but to see at points we have 4 or 5 designers, machinists, seamstresses, production, when normally we'd have a busy day, 15, 20, 25, and you have this kind of the real soul to the company. I found it quite difficult, and I work a lot with people's energy, and we kind of mention it in general, but for sure I've really struggled with the whole the Zoom, all of that stuff. I'm not that good at doing any of that, but I really hope on the flip side, I try and think pre-COVID, the year before lockdowns, 2019, I did 28 international trips, and I meant to be a responsible designer, right? So my hope in all of this is how can we just take what's been actually really good about digital acceleration, but then how can we really just bring back all of that proper physical interaction. But now everyone wants to see Dave. Now we're getting all the questions coming through. So this one we might already kind of know, but I'll ask. It kind of came up a little bit earlier, but collaboration during lockdown must have been complicated. How have you found it? That's from Anna.
Right.
Again, you can take all the credit, right?
I really can't. The team have done an amazing job. Collaboration through lockdown, it was challenging. It was challenging, and we were learning. All of us were learning every day. Dave and our team and yourself and the wider team, working together. But we managed to deliver that connectivity, right? Ultimately,
I think so.
And which is translated into something that we're both really proud of. But it was a learning journey, right? It was
the final products and the amazing kind of relationships I think we've built up have been quite unique, but I wouldn't want to repeat it. Kind of what we've been through. The next question, and maybe this is for any kind of budding, guys and girls out there that maybe are starting their own companies, might be within fashion, but just in general. So in terms of collaborating in the future, in line with your 2030 goals, are there kind of specific companies now that you'd be looking to, or even individuals, and remembering, we get a real mixed audiences from young designers through to sometimes academics, through to other brands that are looking in kind of curious. So if you dream big around Aēsop, and again you've kind of been a bit of a magician with our partnership. So who else might you think of?
I mean, we're pretty open. We're pretty open as long as we share similar values, and we feel that we can come together and create something that is more than 1 + 1, right? So we have got a few things in the pipeline. Unfortunately, I can't really share much right now. But if people are interested in collaborating with us, and
there we go.
Feel free to reach out to us.
That's a bold statement. I think. Have we got one more question, Dave, coming through?
You've invested a lot. This will be more.
Say it out loud, Dave.
So more for. In terms of the retail stores, you've invested a lot of money. How will these work post-pandemic?
Yeah,
because you're known for your
I'll just repeat that just in case anyone didn't hear. So Aēsop have invested a lot in their amazing retail stores, and each one is just its own kind of world, right?
Yeah.
And so, what does that look like post-pandemic? And are you kind of altering them, or are you sort of thinking about how COVID sort of reacted to that?
So, broadly speaking, the vast majority of our stores at the moment are open around the world.
You kind of forget that.
Europe's an anomaly at the moment in the context of our store portfolio, and what we're seeing is that the customers very much want to go in and have that total sensorial experience. To have the conversations with the consultants, try new products. So in terms of the future of the stores, we still see it being very much part of our distribution moving forward. We are seeing, so social commerce growing very much in Asia.
Yeah.
So for instance, in Korea, we're on something called Kakao, which is similar for the audience that don't know. It's sort of Facebook for Korea, but different.
Yeah.
And we're doing very well on that. So I think a mix of distribution where you can have a rich experience within the store, and a lot of our stores are in community spaces where people, the consultants, they know their customers, and they like to have
so
that.
For the most part, you have that genuine.
Yeah, that genuine.
Wow, so that's
genuine,
really similar to
it's similar to what happens here. Yeah, we have we do it around the world. We have a lot of neighbourhood stores, where the consultants know the customers.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So one thing I omitted to say earlier, but you reminded me with the whole sort of digital acceleration. So just as a reminder for anyone that might have joined, part of what tonight is about is really celebrating our new adventure as Roll Up, which is part of our partnership, of course, with Aēsop. So these beautiful 1960s aeronautical maps, which we've made into the pouch that you see here. But the cool thing about this is we've done the remade pieces here in the RÆBURN Lab. We've also then got a beautiful recycled cotton version, which you'll be able to find in stores, of course, with Aēsop around the world, and of course online. But then we're also releasing the pattern.
This is what I love.
So this was part of the big conversation to begin with, right? And
yes.
What did you love about it?
Yeah, the democratization of it. The idea that we can facilitate people, reusing materials in their own homes.
Yeah.
To give materials a second life. I think it's really exciting, and it's exciting in terms of what it will spur in terms of people's thoughts moving forward. Yeah. We're excited about this, but if we can provoke people to think in a different way moving forward, so I think it can be really powerful.
So this is actually how the pandemic for RÆBURN has been super positive, because we used to do our animal making mascots. You can make a shark or a polar bear, all of these things. And of course, with lockdown, we couldn't physically have people in the space. So we then released the patterns, and we had all these people making incredibly creative items all around. So yeah, I'm so glad that we've been able to bring this into the project and really bring together, I guess, craft, creativity, community.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about this is that then it kind of goes back to everyone out there to see how creative you can be. What do you have at home? How far can you push this idea of again, the sort of co-creation aspect? And I guarantee we'll get some amazing results back that people will make.
Looking forward to
So
it.
with that, I think that's probably a really nice thing to wrap up. I'm looking over at Dave. Thank you, Dave. You've been wonderful as well. And just to say, yeah, thanks once again, Adam. It's been a real honour. And for anyone that hasn't seen the partnership, please do have a look online. And then we're actually then launching around the world at limited stores as well. We've got RÆBURN shop windows as well, particularly in Asia, Japan. We're hoping still maybe here in the UK, depending when lockdown lifts. So for me, it's been one of our most special projects and a real honour. And again, just to say thank you to you and to the whole Aēsop team.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks to you and your team.
We finished with an elbow,
Nice.
right?
And thank you for joining us.
Thank you.